My daughter had her 9th birthday last week. Since she was very young, she accompanied me in nearly everything I did. As I like to cook and bake, she also had already plenty of experience with helping by making various dishes and cakes. For her last birthday, however, she wanted to go first time all solo. Meaning I was to sit and wait in case she had a question, but everything else was hers. She was incredibly proud, and so was I, from picking the recipe, measuring, mixing, etc. The only thing I did was pull it out of the oven. She then proceeded to make the frosting and decorate the cake again all by herself. Needless to say, everybody was very proud of her, and she was really looking forward to sharing her cake with the family and chipping in with everyone about her process. My mom is a baker also, and she heavily complimented my daughter on how wonderful the cake looked and tasted, and soon all of us will be coming to daughter for advice. The daughter was glooming with joy. Everybody complimented my daughter as the cake was indeed delicious and beautiful. That was apparently too much for my dad, who started to get increasingly fuzzy. First off, he started as, "Maybe you are trying to poison us with this jokes," and I shushed him. Then when everybody asked the daughter about how she did it, he got louder and louder, interrupting her to tell us all that he is also capable of making cake. His cakes will always taste better, it wasn't even a difficult cake, etc. Every time somebody else told him to be quiet as it was daughter's moment. So he waited to let the stupid cake talk pass and then started interrupting every conversation that followed just to make it all about him. When that failed, he got louder and talked with increased volume so he would be heard. He even kind of pounded when she opened her presents, as nobody asked what he thought of the presents. So yeah, dear people, that is my dad. Trapped in the body of a 65-year-old man with the mind of a bratty 3-year-old. Edit. One thing I wanted to point, however, is yes, my dad has been like this all his life. I remember when I was in elementary school, my teachers picked me out for a gifted kids program. My dad had me for weeks on end looking through his university notes to show me how much better his understanding of maths was in university compared to first grader me. Hence prove I am not at all more gifted than he was and is. And I have to say sorry, my phone fell into my youngest trusting hands that day, and she decided to help mommy by cleaning it up in the dishwasher. So we have no pictures that day, and the cake was eaten up instantly. I am baffled. Your dad should have asked where his presents were. OP. He kind of did. My dad had his B-day 2 weeks prior. As my parents' bathroom is in really bad shape, we kids decided to not get him something, but instead open a savings account for a bathroom remodeling. Now every B-day and festivity my parents get a few hundred by each of us. My mom loved that idea and is excitedly waiting until our goal is reached, while my dad never fails to mention how he doesn't get real presents anymore, which he also did at my daughter's B-day. The only thing missing was your dad throwing himself on the floor to have a full tantrum. Next time your dad bakes something, say your 9-year-old was better. I would call him out. Hey dad, are you that starved for attention that you have to sabotage a 9-year-old girl's birthday party? Really? How old are you again? I don't think I could keep a straight face during that. I would roast your dad. He feels like a 9-year-old's accomplishment is less important than his doing nothing. He can hypothetically make a better cake. Got another story about my mom to share. This one happened about 14 years ago now. I, then a 21M, and my wife, then 22F, were happy to announce that we were expecting our first child. We had been trying for a while and had been told by the wife's doctor that she had some complications that would make it very difficult for her to conceive. I don't remember what the issue was, but it wasn't impossible, just difficult. We had basically given up on trying, we were just enjoying our lives together and having the back burner hope that it might happen one day. And it did. We were both overjoyed and terrified. Nothing is as real as finding out you are expecting child number 1, and it can be a lot to take in at once. Everyone is excited, congrats all around, my parents' first grandchild, etc. My dad was probably the most wholesome I had ever seen or heard him be when we told him the news. My mom was over the moon, too. At first. After the first couple of months, we started really trying to hunt down names. We had already considered and rejected the idea of naming our son after really any family member, we just weren't interested in that. We both subscribed to the idea that the sound of a name is important, your name is the very first impression people will have of you, before even looking in your eyes, they can already have an opinion of you, and we wanted it to be a good one. I won't give details of what name we chose or what names we rejected. I'm not trying to bash anyone's name, and I think, now, that actions are much more important than how a name sounds. When we told the families what we had decided to name him, one person took umbrage with our choice. Of course, my mom. According to my mother, at least one person in each generation needs to have the name. It's the family name. She practically wailed at me when I wouldn't budge. It's the same name I gave you. For the record, I do not like my first name, and I am never called by it. I am mostly called by nicknames or my last name, never my first. I don't hate it, I just don't feel like it suits me or my personality. It is not a silly or archaic name, just not for me. It turned into quite a thing. I can't really remember all that she said, but suffice to say, we were the biggest traitors to the family and we were tearing down tradition. She blamed my wife, saying that she had brainwashed me into it and all that. I was the one who came up with the name we wound up going with for him. Well, I talked to my grandma and she said that the name wasn't really the name, it was her husband's name, and she named one of her sons the same. My mom named me with it and decided it was tradition. We had several months of no contact after that because, frankly, we didn't want to deal with her crap. My dad's family had the name too. My dad got saddled with it. He hated it. When my brother was born he said absolutely not. My mom agreed. His mom, who was not allowed to call grandma, lost her crap apparently. She eventually got over it. Nobody ever used the name again. OP. I still don't understand having the name lol. Even without having met either of my kids before they were born, cause the names we picked by mulling, talking, and eventually kinda just going with the gut, well, they fit for both our boys. Some stuffy old name would not fit either of my bundles of chaos. My mother-in-law asked me if I would consider naming my first son after me. I declined, and she asked again with my second son. I told her one Sergeant Metalhead in the world is enough. Seriously, I have a pretty common name, I don't hate it, but I wouldn't name anyone it. Good for you for standing your ground. Your mom is a problem. Family names can be a pain. I was once engaged to a firstborn son with a family name. Was the same name as my father and brother who also had the same family name. If we had stayed together, my husband, Phil, father, brother, and son, if I had one, would all have the same name. 50 years old. My in-laws told me we're a guest in their home. We've been married for 15 years and are 50 years old. We were told that we are guests in their home and might not be invited back if we do not ask 3x before sitting down if they need anything else. When we visit, we cook, clean, and wait on them hand and foot. Meanwhile, they have a staff of house cleaners, lawn guys, and assorted other staff when we are not there or when other siblings visit. We work full-time jobs and make good money, but when we take vacation time to visit, we are treated like hired help. Not to mention that they hire people to clean before and after the siblings leave. We took 2 weeks vacation, and they invited 8 of their friends and expected us to cook, clean, do laundry, fix drinks and wait on them. Then, tell us we are guests. Why don't they expect the same of their other guests? Not only that, they complain if it's not done to their standards. They never ask, they demand. While I enjoy spending time with them and helping out, it's not fun to spend our vacation time being their hired help. It doesn't feel like a vacation. If my spouse gets fed up and comes up with excuses not to visit, they throw money at him to try and buy him back. They dangle money as a carrot and we ignore it. So, they give big gifts, like homes, to the siblings and their kids as revenge. We don't have kids, we have dogs. The treatment of us versus the siblings is way skewed. How do we approach this narcissistic and unfair treatment? Don't spend another night in their home. Certainly don't spend 2 weeks there. Maybe a short visit, not an overnight, but don't clean or cook or do anything else like that. They can't treat you like a servant when you aren't there. Cut them out like the cancer they are. Full stop. The moment they started confusing guest for butler, I would have trolled the crap out of them. Literally, do everything wrong and ruin their house, but just act like you did your best. Come off as incompetent but well-meaning, and let your in-laws' seething anger be the reward. Edit. In essence, just act like Mr. Bean. Lol. You come to visit and stay at a hotel. Don't engage in conversation about it, plan activities to see them outside their home on a neutral territory. Share your itinerary and ask if there is anything they'd like to do. They can show up to X, Y, or Z, or not. Then you go and do your vacation stuff, leaving the ball in their court to show up to the places or not. They know you'll be at the diner at 7, the zoo at 4, and hanging out by the pool at noon. They don't show, "Oh, we're so sorry you couldn't make it," and leave it on their plate. Bribing and punishing won't work if you don't let it.